Hi, I'm Glenda, also referred to in these podcasts by my darling son and daughter-in-law as Sorry Mum. I'm here to tell you about Australian Sugarcraft magazine. If you're like me and love watching all of the Bake Off shows and listening to this fantastic podcast, but can't make anything that involves fancy icing and decorating, then you need to get Australian Sugarcraft magazine, where you will get step-by-step tutorials, recipes, tips, and ideas to help you with your cake decorating and sugarcraft work. I need an awful lot of help, and I think I might need Chris's kitchen aid to help with my baking. After all, he has told you all about my kitchen machines that seem to have magically moved from my house to his, so perhaps I might have to borrow his kitchen aid. Mind you, I don't think I'd get too far with it. He loves it nearly as much as Kristie, and he would probably sick Leo and the cats on me. Anyway, I suggest that you subscribe to Australian Sugarcraft magazine. It is only $19.90 per year, and you get 2 full-colour digital editions, giving tips of all levels of cake decoration, from beginners, that's me, to experts. You too can learn to create masterpieces using sugar. Check out their Facebook page, Australian Sugarcraft magazine, today. Back to you, Chris and Kristie.
Thanks for that, Mum. Can you just read this last bit for us, though?
No.
What? Just that there.
No, I can't read that. That's a Kristie word.
Okay. My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and that was my mother.
Hello, Mrs. Buchanan. It's nice to not be apologising to her for once. But
Sorry, Mum.
Her.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Buchanan.
Thank you, Mum. And once again, thank you to Australian Sugarcraft magazine, who have brought you this wonderful series of The Great British Bake Off. And it is grand final week.
It surely is.
And that was an ending, wasn't it?
It was an ending, but what a shirt Sandy Toksvig wore. Little bees.
What a shirt it was.
I mean, beautiful and Noel's shirt, which progressively as it got hotter, more buttons began to be undone. And by the end, when they were doing the final discussion, you saw a little chest hair.
I'm kind of starting to wonder if maybe it wasn't actually that hot. He just turned up the thermostat. It was freezing outside. They walked outside with their bakes going, "You ready for the heat?" They walked outside and they're like, "Fuck, it's cold."
I know what happened. Me in a time machine.
Of course it did.
How do we get the 3 button spread?
So there was no pre-credit joke tonight. They went serious.
I know. There was
the tone of the whole thing was somewhat serious.
And I think it could have been brighter.
Really could have done with it.
Like, there was lots of beautiful little spots, but
it didn't... For me, the concern is it didn't... Okay, a grand final should do one of a couple of things. It should amuse and entertain you and make you really invested in it.
Yeah.
It should be emotionally heart-wrenching and sort of get you really involved. Or the technique and the skill should be overwhelming, and this did none of them.
And it should be a culmination of that person's journey as well.
And there wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a moment tonight at the end where Prue was talking about Rahul, and it's not about, growth, as we were talking about.
Yeah.
And you said, it's not about growth. And I went, no, it's not about growth. But she started out by saying, Rahul began this competition as so unconfident. And it's like...
And now he's leaving slightly less confident.
It's like he's completely got no confidence still, and he's now got a glass tray. So he's a slightly less confident person, but with a pretty cake stand.
Yeah. I'm still processing his win. There's a lot of context there. I'm really happy that he's got it, and... it's something he can, winning your first trophy is always awesome, unless you're like me and you got a lot of fucking you tried trophies, which...
I had a lot of winners' trophies, I'm not going to lie.
Oh.
They're really cool.
You've seen my sister.
I have.
Okay.
Could she play basketball?
Yeah, she did. And she did it better than me. She'd throw in rhythmic gymnastic tricks. So... I couldn't even get the ball in the fucking hoop. She'd do what's called an illusion. If you don't know what that is, it's basically you look like you're about to do a handstand or a cartwheel, but instead you keep one leg planted, the other one goes around, does a full splits while your head goes down. She grabs the ball when her head's down, flicks it up over into the fucking net. Come on.
And they've got to have surely called her for travelling.
No, because her foot was planted on the ground. There is no travelling there.
I just love the idea of
New moves.
I just love the idea of NBA Finals, and you've got the Golden State Warriors on the court, and there's Steph Curry and Kevin Durant doing fucking illusions into the net. Everyone's like, never seen a move like this before, and Charles Barkley's going, I can't believe that's an amazing shot.
Yeah.
So that would be brilliant.
I love you, Catherine. I did get a fuck ton of Girl Guide badges, so
I've seen those. They're impressive.
yeah, I've got a whole sash full.
So
camping blanket.
So Rahul does get a pretty shiny glass trophy out of this at the end.
I hope he served his mum the cake on it.
Didn't look like it. It looked like he was serving it off a normal plate, but then they were waving the trophy around. And by the way, his parents didn't look that impressed with the cake. Look impressed with something this man has done.
I did find it a little bit... Sorry, we're skipping around to the end.
Look, we're processing, all right?
We're processing. So, what I love about Rahul's mum, and I think I'm beginning to understand him, right? He's like, hi, Mum, the results are in. I won. And she's like, oh, thank goodness, I've been praying to God that he'd be with you, and blah, blah, blah. She basically said...
I've made sure that God's with you.
God won this because I prayed. And it's like, oh, my God.
Literally.
Your son came to a country halfway across the fucking world. He came to the homeland of the colonizers, okay, as a brown man in a white world. And he found these lovely English people who said, why don't you try bacon as a hobby, as we found out tonight. And this lovely Cockney Joe, or whatever his name is,
Cockney Joe.
go, here's some flour and some eggs, get yourself some baking. And, you know, this guy's never eaten a donut. He doesn't... What was the other thing? He didn't know what the fuck it looks like. Anyway, he had to walk down the fucking high street to get his idea of what a Parisian patisserie window looked like.
He went through Sunderland.
He really is.
It was one of those. I can't remember. I think it was Sunderland anyway.
Look,
we mentioned it in a previous podcast.
This is going to sound a bit white person, but he really is the Slumdog Millionaire of Bake Off.
That's what they said him as though, but I'm sorry, I'm still back at Joe. I mean...
Oh, Cockney Joey.
Cockney Joe.
He's just helping a Rahul out.
What the... I know you said Rahul, but it sounded like he was helping an owl out. Anyway, so they tried to describe in the opening montage, because we're not past the opening montage.
No.
They try, as Leo joins in, hey Leo, it's the grand final, it wouldn't be the same without you.
We forgot to give him his bone.
No, I gave him the bone. So
oh, that really helped.
So we've even tried to feed him because we didn't need him, and he
I bought him a big, fat, juicy kangaroo tail.
The talent wants to be on the show, as Mum mentioned in the ad.
Yeah.
So Rahul, they tried to sell as being technically good. No, he's been a bit shit at those.
The person who's been technically good is Ruby. She seems to have won the most technicals.
They then tried to sell Kim Joy as all whimsy. That's Jude from Canadian Bake Off. Don't step on Jude's lawn.
Look, she is quite whimsical. Like, she's got a better eyeshadow game than Jude, but I'm sure Jude, if she was into eyeshadow...
She'd do that.
She'd do that and add some more glitter.
Jude makes much better looking, like, miniature figures to sit on top of cakes. I'll give her that. Like, Kim Joy is amazing with her artwork.
Why are we pitting them against each other?
Because there's Commonwealth Games coming up.
True. But imagine you could make a super team like the Harlem Globetrotters.
No, we don't want to make a super team because we want Australia to win.
But
so the idea should be we pit the Canadians and the Brits against each other, right? And they take each other out, and we just pick off the leftovers.
Yeah, but you're not thinking big enough. Imagine a Space Jam situation, right? Aliens come down from Earth and challenge us to a bake-off. Like, we have to think big. You don't know.
Winners of the Commonwealth Games.
I know what I've seen.
The winners of the Commonwealth Games get it. And by the way, just a reminder, we'll talk about it at the end, but next week, we're back because there's a new entrant has appeared.
Kia ora, bros.
We'll come to that in a minute.
I kind of sound South African, but who the hell knows what I mean?
We're not doing South African Bake Off. By the way, South African Bake Off, horrible.
We're doing
really
New Zealand
bad.
Bake Off.
So we are doing Kiwi Bake Off. So, ice donuts. Because nothing screams Great British Bake Off Grand Final like 2 batches of iced donuts.
I thought it was a fun challenge because of the whimsy that you could get. I liked the rainbows. I like the bees.
Like the bees.
The bees like the bees.
The bees did like the bees. We'll come to that in a minute.
Bee on bee action.
Paul tried to convince everybody that the donuts were one of the hardest things they would do in this series. Lies, Paul. Lies. And as Austenite raised on Twitter, again, not to be too petty about it, but this once again is the Great British Fry-Off, not the Great British Bake-Off, because they were all fried donuts. Anyway, Rahul then made another statement where he said that, first of all, he'd never seen donuts, and second of all, that there were no Indian equivalents.
Yeah.
Lies.
You found one?
Well, I've had them before. I used to do tutoring.
Yeah.
And I used to do tutoring with an Indian family. And one of the things they used to do was make us donuts. And the Indian donuts, which are gulab jamun, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Okay.
Right? They are a sweet donut, but they're an Indian donut.
But maybe they're like... Because India's quite big. It's a whole fucking continent. Maybe it's just a specific area. You know, like in England, you have...
No, because then there's
scones, and then you go to Northern England and they have scones.
But each one has a different variation. So there's one which is Meduvada, I think it's called, in South India.
Okay.
So there are variations because it's the dessert all over the place. So they do actually have donuts. But Rahul's like, no, there's no equivalent to a donut in India. Yeah, well, there is.
And he thought it was just fried bread.
Yeah, and then he thought it was fried bread. And the other interesting thing, and Rahul, we saw it again tonight with him.
Yeah.
And again, before people worry, I'm not just bashing Rahul, but there is something about the last 6 weeks where his baking quality has dipped, and all he's talked about is buttercream. And once again, he coated the bloody things in buttercream.
Yeah.
And that's to the point where Paul Hollywood said, when I have a donut, I don't want to taste butter.
But I think he has a great future in funerary donuts.
I think the funerary donut market is good, and also I think that future sponsorship with Devondale, hashtag you ought to be congratulated, looks pretty good. So...
But be fair warning, Noel Fielding, you die before me, making a pilgrimage with some
fried donuts? Yeah, that'd be cool. So Ruby went about making 2 different cinnamon doughs, and then she did a galaxy glaze and a rainbow glaze. The rainbow, they both look really pretty. How do I manage to cut to you when you yawn?
I don't know.
I'm always good at that.
Yeah.
I did like Ruby talked about the fact that her family had to say that her food was good, and then went, no, actually they don't. They say it's terrible. And then they cut to her describing her childhood, describing her baby photo as, look at me, I'm a little goofy.
No, that wasn't her mum, was it? She's like, oh, you look a little goofy. But then her mother's like, you know, if she wins, we will be so proud of her, blah, blah, blah. And I like how they edited the after part, which is probably, but if she loses she dishonors us all and will be shunned.
This is dishonor. You are out of the family.
Occasionally her mum will see her baking something and go, unshun. Can I have a bite of that?
I just got this idea that, especially Ruby and Rahul, there was just like this apparition over the top, like this big head just appearing over their shoulder going, do not disgrace us. You have been warned.
And another big
fades
head,
into nowhere.
which is like Rahul's mum's god.
Look, Rahul, I'm going to let you in. Your mother is annoying.
I'm not sure which god it is. If it's Ganesh, maybe he accidentally stamped on the glass jar that made it shatter. Like
Ganesh is tiptoeing around the kitchen and goes, whoopsie.
Yeah.
So Rahul's family didn't come. It was the 2 friends that he met.
It was Cockney Joe.
It was Cockney Joe and his wife.
Cockney Jane.
I knew that was coming. But those 2 who's like, they met Rahul, was it when they were over in India, I think it was? They met him
on the travelling Punch and Judy show.
Travelling Punch and Judy. I love the idea that young Rahul went back every day for the Travelling Punch and Judy show and eventually became friends with the performers. And eventually was so befriended by the performers that they said, you can come to England and set the tent up. And he's jumped at the chance. You know what? I've got degrees in science coming my way. But who cares?
I'm all about the domestic violence in puppet form.
I'm all about a Travelling Punch and Judy show. Woo! That just became sooty and sweet for a minute there.
The baby. Come on, Mrs. Punch. Let's go.
Bonk. So, that's violence. So, the friends who are like family, though, the ones from the Travelling Punch and Judy show, they seem really sweet and awesome. And they were the ones who were like, don't know why he doesn't have any confidence. Like, he really should.
Yeah.
But every time he talks to his mother on the phone, it does look like he's being deeply interrogated by someone for a crime.
Do you think he came home from his first day at preschool. He's gone, I made a drawing. And the mum's like, oh, no, that was just God working through you.
No. I drew that drawing because you are my child and therefore it is mine.
And he comes home in year 6 and he's like, Mum, I want a scholarship to high school. And she's like, oh, no. That is me and the gods working through you.
I prayed.
No.
I think...
He comes home valedictorian of school, having, performed, rescues of, I don't know, stray animals all over India. And getting and his mom's like, no, that wasn't you.
This is why he ran off with the Travelling Punch and Judy show. He ran off with the Travelling Punch and Judy show because his mother turned around and went, if you leave that, the gods will have nothing to do with it. And he's gone, fantastic.
I can do something the gods don't want. I can earn on my own merit.
Off with the Travelling Punch and Judy show it is.
I'll be the baby. You can throw me out the window.
So, not surprisingly, Rahul then starts doubting himself again and goes, I don't know if I should have put buttercream on those. The answer, by the way, is no, you shouldn't. But anyway, I wanted to know, who was this Kim Joy who was being ultra-precise with the measuring of the donuts?
I'm not sure.
And if only that Kim Joy had existed in the showstopper, who was being so precise with flavours, maybe it'd be a different outcome. But... her decorations, though, that woman's decorations, because you're like, who is she being ultra-precise with the weighing of the dough? Then she makes alien spacecraft, and you're like, oh, yeah,
hey.
I recognise you.
It's I don't need formal-looking donuts. I don't need them all to look like if I'm getting little aliens on them or bees that bees actually think they can mate with.
Oh, yeah, the bee on bee action.
Oh, yeah, waka down.
Yeah, I like the fact that, Noel was, of course, the person who went over to examine bee on bee action. And it looked like he was a seasoned veteran.
But we also found out that she calls her husband Bee because apparently he is a bee. So now I'm thinking...
Bee on bee action?
Yes. Now I'm thinking he's a werebee.
He flew into he changed forms. He flew in and was on the donut going, wow, chicka, wow, wow.
He's the UK equivalent of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Kim Joy and the Bee.
Now, I did have to question, and this may be seen as being, too picky, but Rahul told us very early on,
he'd never eaten a donut.
I've never had a donut. Then later on, he turns around and says, I like a donut with a lot of filling. How do you know? You've never had one.
Maybe in his practice, he came up with that whole, no, they need to be...
Oh, look, again, probably that's
fuller.
it, but that's... Again, it's just the... I never had a donut. Yeah, I've never had a donut followed by... I've had one with... I like them with a lot of filling. It just seems weird. And then the bag burst.
And apparently he had an affair with a mango.
I love that. Noel, your bag's burst.
Collar, told a tale on you. Mango on your collar.
Passion fruit is through.
Is that apricot? Oh, that's right. That was me.
That was you.
Actually, no, it was plums on the pavlova.
Plums on the pavlova. Oh, me plums.
And did anyone see the plums that I made? Oh my god, I missed a treat. I should have just put plums on the plums.
I was stunned you didn't do that. So if you missed it on the Washing Up Instagram account, there is a lovely photo of the pavlova that my delightful wife made.
And I did some C&B cream action.
Yeah, so it's all C&B cream action.
And then punctuated it with fruit.
For those people out there that need that laid out, that's cock and ball action.
It was the penis. Complete with dribbling. It can either be semen or urine. I don't really mind. Probably semen because the cream is white. But I did put blueberries on it. So I think maybe
the
kidney stones and cream.
It's passing. Now I feel sorry for the pav. It was passing kidney stones. Oh, the poor bastard. Anyway. Actually, cutting it up to eat it now might have been the most kind thing we could have done. Anyway, so
it was a bris more than a cutting of a pav.
So Kim Joy's, they said that the shape was pretty round, which is good because it was a donut, and that's a good idea. Nice texture, lemony. The boozy one had a lot of filling, but the lovely flavour.
Yeah, and
the
it was
almond
perfect.
liqueur was absolutely spot on.
And even Prue said it. Even a teaspoon more would have been too much. Whoa! That must be a lot of booze.
Ruby, they said great design. There was too much drip around the outside. We've all had those moments.
Too sugary.
Light texture, ultra sticky, and the filled one was underfilled and a bit boring. Underfilled is kind of an understatement. She found the one air pocket and put a drop of filling in. Rahul, on the other hand, created what they referred to as a mango bomb.
Well, it did explode beforehand, so I feel
it reminds me of The Simpsons. You know when they have the one where the guy fills up the donut to explode for Homer and it's wobbling. And that's what it reminded me of. Rahul, they said the colours were amazing, possibly over-decorated, especially on the funeral wreath, which was all buttercream.
Which is actually fitting because they showed him at the Taj Mahal. Now everyone's like, "Oh, you're not even smiling at the Taj Mahal." I'm like, "It's a fucking...
It's a funeral, yeah.
It's a monument to a dead woman."
Yep. They said that
everyone who's smiling there is being really fucking inappropriate.
They said the texture was underproofed.
Oh, look at me. I'm a white tourist coming into a country. I've got to go to the Taj Mahal. Oh, and a smile for the people at home. And the ghost of the woman that has died is like, fuck you guys. I'm dead. I'm in purgatory.
So the texture was underproofed.
Stuck in the tourist trap.
There was too much buttercream. They said the filled ones were packed in and they had a better texture. So on the first one, you'd probably give it to Kim Joy.
I reckon she blessed Rahul, and that's why he
That's
won.
what it was.
Because he can't do this on his own merits.
No, it's got to be grateful. Kim Joy, you'd probably give it to on the first one so far because she clearly won. She clearly won the first challenge.
Yeah.
So then we got to.
It was like Kim Joy, closely followed by Rahul, followed by Ruby.
Then again, poor Ruby didn't have a good anything really. I feel really bad for her. She didn't have a good anything. Yeah. All right, so the technical, Paul's clue was make good use of your heat source. Guess what, Paul? I'm about to make really good use of my heat source because I'm coming off the long run.
Here we go, folks.
Then Sandy goes, your benches and your ovens are all completely out of order and you now need to pick up your gingham-covered baskets and come outside.
That's not a sausage sizzle.
No, what it is campfire pita bread with 3 dips. Okay, I need to work out a way to phrase this which is both gentle and, you know, like yielding and like fluffy like a little lamb in springtime and appropriate. Right. What in the actual fuck? To quote Noel Fielding, I've been to hell and this is what it feels like.
He was just talking about the temperature.
This challenge, as you pointed out quite succinctly while we were watching it, had nothing to do with any form of baking or cooking even.
No.
What was it a challenge about?
It was a challenge about, like, managing fire.
Manage fire.
Which, when we saw it on MasterChef and Huda was boss lady and fucking rocked it, was really interesting because they had to use different techniques to make 3 different types of food. But that was...
You know what MasterChef isn't?
It's not bake-off.
It's not a baking competition.
No.
You know what this wasn't?
What?
Part of a baking competition. You know why?
Why?
Because it's about the 3 fucking dips. So, if you want proof this is about the dips, when they get to the judging, they mention half a sentence about the bread and cut straight to the flavour of the dips. And they broke all 3 dips down.
And then, like, Prue did mention, this isn't a challenge about the dips. It's a challenge about the bread. And I'm like, well, why the fuck are the dips there?
Yeah, well, they didn't even bother to really test the bread. It was all about the dips, and the judging was all about the dips. Now, nobody actually had the foggiest how to cook on a fire.
The judging was about the bread. It was just who was the least burnt and the least dense.
Well, they're all burnt. And they're all dense. None of them were very good. Like, literally, Kim Joy put the first one of hers directly on the coals. We got some amazing imagery of all of them trying to work fires, start fires. We have possibly the image of the series, which is Rahul standing with a burnt tomato.
Trying to blow it out.
Blowing it out. That's something I never thought I'd say in Bake Off.
There was a moment when I thought they were going to do the opening act to Roslana because they all had the long pipes.
Yeah, there was a moment where Rahul started blowing glass, I'm pretty sure, and like I don't know what his bake was like. It didn't look very good, but I'm pretty sure the pot that he made was exquisite. You know what it was? I've worked it out.
Great British Throwdown.
Yeah, Pottery Throwdown. Right, they're filming 2 series at once. Rahul is also a contestant on Pottery Throwdown, and they had to do glass
And you know
blowing.
what? He'll win that, and
Because
his
you know
mum
why?
will go.
Yeah, that's an achievement. But you know who achieved it?
Who?
The gods. But what I really like about that show is Rahul will be in his element because, of course, the male judge in Great Pottery Throwdown cries at the drop of a hat. So Rahul will be sitting there, like, really looking upset and disappointed with himself, and the judge will be bawling, going, "This is the greatest pot I've ever seen. This glass bombing's amazing." And there's tears all over the
He'll be
place.
like, it looks exactly like a banoffee pie, and he'll taste it and go, "This is a banoffee pie," and Rahul's like, "Yes, but what is it served on?" He's like, "It's the perfectly blown plot."
And meanwhile, the guy who runs the kiln out the back will have blown everybody else's pots up. That's what happened with the jar. The guy from the Pottery Throwdown blew up the glass jar. I know it. If you've ever seen
him or Ganesh,
if you haven't seen Great British Pottery Throwdown, by the way, I do recommend you go and watch it.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. It's not necessarily brilliant, but it's fascinating. And the guy who runs the kiln, I'm not convinced he actually knows what he's doing.
No.
Because there's a couple of episodes where he just blows everything up. Anyway, so back to this. And you can tell how impressed I was with this challenge when I've just talked about Pottery Throwdown for 5 minutes. So no one knows how to cook on the fire to the point where Rahul puts his hand up like he's in school and says to Sandy, "Can I get some help? I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really know." And Sandy looks at him and goes, "Rahul, it's kind of a challenge. We're not allowed to help you."
I did love, just skipping back to Noel and Ruby.
Yeah.
And the Nubian roll show, as I'm going to call it. Get it? Because it's like newbie and roll, because we've mixed up our names. Who is the newbie and who is the roll? Anyway, episode 5, Nubian roll in hell. And roll is Satan, but it's actually Noel, because he's taking on the name Roll this time. And he's just dressed like that, and he's just hanging out. And it's the most banal thing, and they're just bantering like they were today.
That'd be brilliant. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. Everyone then burnt everything. That's literally all I could say. Said, Kim Joy puts the first one directly on the coals and goes, "Oh, that's a bit bad." Then puts the second one down and goes, "No, not on the coals," and moves it off again. Rahul's stuck to the grill, and then he's like, "Oh, these are horrible," and flips it over, and they're breaking in half. He was right on this one. And then, Ruby's just going, "Well, they're all burnt," and they're all flipping. They're all charred, and then they're all scraping them down going, "Maybe they won't notice."
You didn't see anything.
No.
Don't tell them.
So the judging. So again, and I haven't understated what they said about the flatbreads.
Yeah.
A bit charred, more flatbread. Then dips are good. Kim Joy, a slight envelope, followed by a long review about how great the dips were. Then Ruby, they're the thickest and the smallest.
That's what she said.
Then the dips were meh.
So Ruby last, Kim Joy second.
No, Kim Joy first,
sorry.
Rahul second.
Rahul second.
So Kim Joy
in the lead at the moment.
is in the lead, and she's won 2 challenges out of 2.
Yeah.
Quite clearly. Now, I at this point put out that I thought that we couldn't wait for the final challenge of the grand final, which was gazpacho croutons. Because it was that kind of episode.
It really was.
Look, the point I feel we need to make, and it's really stated by the final bake, it didn't remotely feel grand final-ish.
No.
The big challenges didn't feel big. The what all 3 produced, to be honest with you, in the last challenge was completely underwhelming.
Yeah. See, I felt that the grand... just process something, right? With the grand final, we want to see advancement and a person's kind of culmination of their journey. We want to see them challenged, but we want to see them succeed. We want to see cool shit. Just going back to the technical, they were relying on a gimmick.
Yep.
Look, you're cooking on fire. I would have been okay with seeing that in Bread Week.
Yep.
Not completely impressed, but I'd be okay with that in Bread Week.
You can at least explain it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, and the gimmick could be okay there because we're not really, we're still weeding out the bakers at that point.
I don't believe that donuts and pita bread are a grand final bake.
But what if you have a fleeter pita?
If you have the fleeter pita, well, then, of course, as we know, you make a lot of money.
Mod!
Yeah. Bart! But you know, the Yazuka turn up and they eventually destroy all the trucks. And you walk inside just before the really small cool guy does something. And then you walk and close the door and you hear him and you go, oh.
Throw the pretzels. Anyway.
So now Whitey Ford is out there to calm the crowd. Oh, they're hitting Whitey with the pretzels. It didn't feel like a grand final to me. It felt like leftover challenges they had from other weeks, and they're like, oh, I really wanted to do donuts, but we didn't get it into dough week, to bread week. I really wanted to do pita bread, but we didn't get it into bread week. Well, why don't we just throw them into the grand final? We need something for the grand final week.
Yeah, I'm okay with the donuts, less so with the pita.
I think the pita was not good, and I actually think it hurt the quality of the grand final.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a gimmick.
And what they produced, to be honest, as we said before, in the landscape dessert, they didn't specify anywhere that they wanted height, did they?
No, they just said a landscape.
Which then became the key of the judging was, I want height.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, no, it was flavour profiles. Like, you have to think about Kim Joy's flavour profiles. It was ginger on ginger.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely correct in saying that ginger cake is amazing, but then you followed it up with gingerbread, and it was, you just disappointed.
I'm not saying they're wrong, but Paul made a big deal about the height of Rahul's, and they made a big deal that the others didn't have any height to them.
Well, no, Ruby's did. They liked her mountains.
But he made a big deal about the height thing that wasn't in the judging.
I'm referring to her, her shoe, not her boobs, okay? Get your mind out of the gutter, Brandon Black. I'm looking at you, you boob fiend.
Brandon Black, boob fiend. So I asked the question on Twitter at this point in time, what would you do for a landscape? Now, what would you do for a landscape dessert? Because I've got a bit of a hunch what you'd do for a landscape dessert. I think I know where you'd go with this.
Lots of inspiration, but quite frankly, Chernobyl. Why the fuck not?
I think it's perfect because it doesn't really matter what you make. And look, to be honest with you, most of it looked like Chernobyl.
Look, if it was
Ruby's looked more like
crumbling,
Chernobyl than what she said it was.
It's melting mushrooms. Big green radioactive green mounds.
So,
yeah.
So we put the call out to people and went, what would you make? So what we've got in terms of what people would make. So Brandon Black said that he'd look at things like Norway and Switzerland, and he'd do something like Norway and Switzerland. I'm assuming without the Nazis retreating over the Swiss Alps.
Quite possibly.
Or the Nazi sympathisers hiding in Norway.
Is that for the fjords?
Yeah, possibly. But maybe do a dead parrot. Just pining for those fjords. Austenite referred to us and went, no idea because it's not inspiring me in any way. You know what? I was with you the whole episode. Gabby said the Giant's Causeway because there were lots of shapes you could play with.
Ooh, that's what she said.
Nicole said Red Centre, Uluru car from chocolate mud cake, biscuit crumble in the camping ground, dingoes are optional.
Baby. Or at least a strawberry milkshake stain on the back of a car.
And then some young gentleman, I believe his name is, let me just read this here properly.
Hobbit Rahwood?
Robert Harwood. I believe it was his...
You were about to say Hardwood, weren't you?
No, you were going to do that. I was waiting for me to do that. Robert Harwood.
I'm here to clean your pool.
I believe...
I'm here to bake you a cake.
I believe through his Twitter that
I'm
it was...
going to put one in your oven.
I believe via his Twitter that it was his birthday yesterday.
Oh, that is correct.
Happy birthday, young Robert.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Robert. Happy birthday to you.
This has been the CBS Singers, see? Anyway, young Mr. Robert Harwood said that he would make a massive modelling chocolate tree with biscuit leaves, shoe bun apples, sitting on a hill made of rich chocolate cake.
Oh.
You know what, Robert? With ideas like that...
You should put them in a magazine.
Or...
Yeah?
He should go on Bake Off.
Commonwealth edition.
I'm just putting it out there. I think this Robert fellow's a bit good at baking. I think this Robert fellow needs to go on Bake Off.
Auditions coming up, I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure they're coming up. You can find someone who was on the show and they can help you out. But I want everyone on Twitter to get out to this young Robert Harwood fellow. And I want you to sort of tell him he needs to go on Bake Off, because that would be, what an adventure that would be. And then maybe get involved in something like, again, Australian Sugarcraft magazine. That is facebook.com/Australian Sugarcraft. So, into the challenge.
Yes.
Ruby starts by talking about the fact that she's making unicorns in an ice malt lake, which led Noel, of course, to bemoan the lack of minotaurs.
Look, quite frankly...
They're underrepresented.
And unicorns have just got a fucking cartel over baking. Like, unicorns everywhere when you look at cakes and stuff. Like
ironically, unicorns are everywhere because they're not everywhere now.
The unicorn cake. There are so many other mythical creatures, as he was pointing out. Minotaurs, centaurs.
Moderate Republicans in America.
Cyclops.
Lots of...
Fairies. There's
lots
the fairies. Some fairies on
But fairies are pretty overdone too.
And,
Centaurs. Where's the centaur cake?
What about an incubus? Like, just a sex demon draining the soul from its
I was about to
victims.
say, are we talking incubus or a succubus?
Either or.
'Cause-
Because a succubus fucks a man and an incubus fucks a woman. Is that...
And well,
I'm sure that's
although that explains why the band called
trying to
themselves...
go back to my erotic fiction.
Although that explains why the band called themselves Incubus.
Why?
Because they wanted to go out and find the ladies.
And
and
we're here to suck and fuck.
We're here...
Sorry.
Sorry, Mum. See? I knew we'd get there eventually. So, Kim Joy made Atlantis, and I've got a bit of a problem with this.
Why?
I'm a bit of a bug you know what, up a jacksy about this. What I'm disappointed in was that, as a historian, I'm disappointed that there wasn't a...
No, I'm sorry. You need to say, speaking as a historian.
Speaking as a historian, I'm disappointed there wasn't a Spanish archaeologist running around pointing, going, maybe this is the site of Atlantis. Because
she really needed 7.
Because there is a wonderful, and by wonderful I mean horrendous documentary, absolutely horrendous documentary on YouTube.
Oh,
it's a national,
favourite.
it's a National Geographic one, and it's a Spanish archaeologist claiming to have found the lost city of Atlantis. And he picks like 9 different places, including the middle of a Spanish desert.
But one of them's going to be right.
No, it's not, because the island is Thera. And Atlantis isn't real. Sorry about that, people.
You're talking about Themyscira?
No, we're talking about the destruction. We're talking about the destruction on the island of Thera.
I came up with my superhero persona today.
Oh, yes, you did.
Wonder Wench.
Wonder Wench.
My outfit's like inspired by Wonder Woman, but it's in the shape of like a beer hall lass. And then I have jugs of truth. Because I get you really, really drunk, and then you just spill your guts. In 2 ways, like telling the truth and then vomiting.
There's many comments there about the jugs of truth. Anyway, so Kim Joy, now I think where she fell down was she decided, I think at this point, all I really have to do is do a decent bake.
Yeah.
And she wasn't wrong. I think that if Kim Joy just does something that is good, she wins easily. But what she did was she went, I know, they really liked my spiced ginger cake recipe. I'm just going to run with it. Now, good, but vary the flavour.
Absolutely. I think build on that. Like, so, and this has had the potential for showing roots. Like, oh, they really like my spiced ginger cake. Cool, popping that in. Or what can I build on with the ginger? So, like more citrus. Like, why not have like another spice type of fucking ruin?
Spicy ruin.
A spicy ruin?
Yes, spicy ruin.
I think her name's Jerry Halliwell.
There you go. That's very accurate, unfortunately. So Rahul decides he's doing an edible rock garden. 200 items.
Well, at first he was deciding that, and then Ganesh just went, whoops, sorry.
Oops.
Busted a jar.
The jar went bang because of the heat. I'm assuming the jar went bang because Rahul was talking so long about the 200 elements he was making. The jar just went, that's it, I'm out of here. I can't do this. I just can't do this
Next
anymore.
life.
I'm out. We're done. So I thought coming back as a jar would be a breeze. No.
Just a container for items, but apparently not. Just wanted to
Now-
escape my boring wife, Edna.
Now,
Oh, Earl, have you watched the latest episode of Stamp Collectors? It's my favourite because they talk about the size of the perforations.
God,
I'll just slowly goes for a long walk into the sea.
doesn't come back.
Comes back as a jar.
then listens to Rahul crapping on about 200 elements, and he's like, "Oh, for fuck's sake! I want to go back and talk about stamp collectors."
Next life, bowl of petunias.
Next life he comes back as the perforation. Anyway, so the jar went bang because of the heat. He got an extra 15 minutes. Now, if you read the recap, you go, "Well, that sounds a bit dodgy." When you watch it, look, it's fair that he gets 15 minutes.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with him.
Absolutely.
If he dropped the jar, different story.
Like, I know glass like that will burst. I don't know if I've probably told this tale. Who knows? If I'm just repeating myself, just sit back and enjoy. So, on
Story of my life.
Schoolies, 1997, Byron Bay, we hired a beach house. First night we go out and get really, really wasted. On the way home, we see a cop car. Ha ha ha, they're probably going to our place. Lo and behold, they were, because the front sliding door completely shattered. Now, my friends who were taking some illicit drugs and trying to look really, really straight in front of these cops who obviously know when people aren't really, really straight, just telling them it just exploded. And there was nothing, there was no, like, rock or anything through it. It just,
It
it's
just
the
went
nature
back.
of
Well,
glass.
no, I
It was Earl again, just bored of two teenagers
trying to get away.
crapping on.
Really trying to get away. No, I had that happen with my insert name of cookware here. I'm not going to mention the branding, but I had that happen with the lid. It was a shatterproof lid.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't, because
Mine's
it shattered all the way through my meal. It was
Shatteract.
wonderful. It was. Yeah, let's just call it Shatteract, shall we? So that's right. It's the name of everyone's favourite card game, Sickbo. And no, I know Sickbo's a dice game, Gabby. Before you call me out on it, that's part of the joke. I worry about this now. Every time I make a joke, I'm worried I've got to explain it for Gabby.
You're like,
I'm back at Turandot. I'm back at Turandot. Of course, she called us out on Turandot.
I was
Interestingly
referring to
enough, though, currently in the middle of Miscellaneous City, what's up all over the streets? Turandot posters.
Thanks for reminding us, Leah.
Thank you for that, Leah.
Hope your
Greatly
parents
appreciate
had
it.
a nice little jaunt around the
Miscellaneous City.
Seeing the miscellaneous opera house.
The Miscellaneous Harbour Bridge and the Miscellaneous Opera House. So pleased. So Sandy, what I actually thought was fascinating about this, Sandy gave Rahul a kiss on the cheek, but what I found was fascinating was that he's such a pessimist that when something fucks up,
Yeah.
he seems to calm down.
Yeah.
Like he just sort of went,
It's like
cool, I'm good now.
it's
blown
like,
up.
It's like it fulfills his belief status.
Yeah, like he got to the point where you could see he was really pent up. And then he suddenly just calmed the hell down after everything exploded.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, it's all fucked up now, so yay, that's what I always knew was going to happen. So Noel goes over to Kim Joy's bench while they're cleaning up Rahul's, and they're explaining like that Ruby's going with this idea of this magical fairyland sort of thing, and is Ruby stepping on your whimsy? And so they asked them all to describe themselves. So we had Kim Joy was, of course, whimsical. What was Ruby again? Ruby was...
No, she was stroppy.
Stroppy. And then they said, Rahul, describe yourself in one word. And he goes, depressing. He knows.
No, but the thing is, if you have that story going on in your brain, you're
it's reinforced.
believe it.
It's reinforced.
So, there is a bit of a change. I did see him laugh tonight with Cockney Joe and Cockney Jane. They come up to give him a hug.
Well, why wouldn't they? They're all part of the travelling Punch and Judy business, which apparently is booming with Brexit. Because you're not going to be able to afford any other form of European entertainment. So travelling Punch and Judy shows are on the way back in.
And gosh, here we go for the travelling tinker. They're going to be back in business as well.
Cockney Joe's rubbing his hand together. We can't wait.
Next stop, plague diggers, like the plague grave diggers. I don't know, I'm just expecting Britain to revert back to
Bring out your dad. Anyway.
feudal Britain returns.
So Sandy then presented, went and wrote out Atlantis Island in Greek on a sign for her so she could write it on top of the buildings. And I loved it because she goes, "Oh, that's wonderful." She goes, "Don't look at the back of it. It said pain." It was from the
Yeah.
It was from the pastry week.
But I just like to think, she goes in to do it and she's like, "Oh shit, wrong side."
Now, at this point, Kim Joy's artwork just became incredible. Mm-hmm. Especially the coral.
Oh, that was beautiful. I'm pretty sure I've seen it on Facebook, but it was just a joy to see someone actually do it in real life.
You know where else I think I've seen that?
Where?
Australian Sugarcraft magazine.
Oh, quite possibly, yeah.
Quite possibly that technique is in Australian Sugarcraft magazine. It's only $19.90.
Yes, for a year subscription.
You get 2 episodes a year. It's biannual.
Editions, not episodes. We have episodes.
I know they have editions. Sorry, love. Sorry, my
That's
bad.
right.
My mistake.
It's got to get technical.
We've got to get technical because they weren't tonight. Speaking of not technical, poor Ruby who burnt herself on molten sugar.
Oh my God, I don't think she had a thumb left. It really did look like 3rd degree burns there.
Oh, it was...
I did not see anything but a dark red splotch, and I don't know if that's the isomalt that stuck to her finger, because I'm pretty sure what would happen. But shit, that looked bad.
It looked horrible. And then they finished, and it was just Rahul, which was the weirdest vibe
Yeah.
I think I've seen ever. Was the other two were just finished, and Rahul was just baking. Now, we commented on this. All 3 of them went really dank with their colour scheme in terms of...
Yeah, it was like...
I know they said landscape, guys, but you could make it brighter. The one problem I had with Rahul was he went brighter, but all he did was fucking pipe buttercream all over it.
The issue that they had was that fantasy landscape, but trying to do a realistic colour palette.
They didn't have to.
No, it could have been bright and beautiful. I would have had that...
Purple. I would have gone purple.
Purple or like just turquoise.
Something that stands the hell out.
Yeah.
And they even said that Rahul's looked horrible. And it did. It looked terrible.
It looked like sludge, but tasty sludge.
Apparently it was very tasty sludge.
Tasty sludge.
Now, what I was disappointed with, by the way, was that when the returning bakers came out, John didn't mention Wales once. That was all I took from it. Like when they all came out and they were outside talking about what was going to happen and all this sort of stuff, and
Yeah.
the only thing that disappointed me was John, yes, he was in his fancy shirt, but not once did he mention it.
And we would have forgotten he was from Wales if we didn't have...
At the end of the photo of him in the rugby jumper.
Yeah. It's like, oh, phew, that's right, he's from Wales.
Now,
Completely forgot.
Now, I'm trying to be nice with the whole thing, but all I wrote before I got to the review is simply, they're all a bit shit. It felt, as we said...
Not the bakers, just the look of the bakers.
Yeah, what they did. All 3 of them. And it felt underwhelming. And again, I kind of also wondered, and this is why I mentioned the other 2 bakes, I wonder if having those first 2 bakes as the first 2 bakes of the grand final sort of took them out of the idea of it being a grand final and do something massive. Because, like, they haven't really been doing anything that you go, well, that's a grand final bake. Like, you feel... There are some bakes you feel a grand final bake. And you've just come back in from a campfire having made some pita bread. And 3 dips.
Maybe they got stuffed on s'mores after. While they're waiting for the technical judging.
Maybe it was all the taramasalata. Anyway, Ruby.
Too much baba ganoush.
Ruby, they said the sponge was good.
Inhaled too much eggplant smoke.
The salsa. Which poor. Ooh, that's a kick. The sponge was good for Ruby. The flavours were good. The presentation was a bit poor. That was an understatement. She used 2 moulds. I've got one of them here. I used it to try to make my watermelon. When the oven died. So the watermelon didn't set properly. It's not a very good mould. And it just looked like 2 domes of green mess. The caramel on the shoe was burnt and was bitter. They said that her creme pat was beautiful, the shoe was beautiful, but the caramel made it all bitter and made it really hard to eat. Rahul, and all I wrote was, that's all buttercream.
But this Gioconde was gorgeous and delicious, and you could see how fluffy that was.
Yep.
And as Prue said, she would have said that's a really delicious chocolate cake if she didn't have the Gioconde before it.
Yep. Now, he ran through all the elements and included a sentence that you never thought you'd hear, which is, dip the stones into the sludge.
Tasty, tasty sludge.
They absolutely loved every element, and they said the flavours...
Melt in your muffin.
And they said the flavours were really good. Now, Kim Joy, they said it was original and colourful. Paul complained about the height and said that he wanted it to be taller. We want you to be taller, Paul, but we hear us complaining.
And there wasn't enough elements, that it was just some praline sand and...
But they only needed 3.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. He was complaining about lack of number of elements. They wanted 3 baked elements. She gave 3 baked elements.
Yep, exactly.
They complained about height. In nowhere did it say height. It said landscape.
Landscape, yeah.
So 2 of the elements...
And what if she was to do the Dartmoor Plains?
Yeah, exactly. 2 elements...
The Mull of Kintyre.
No, you need to do a little Paul McCartney. What if she'd done the Nullarbor?
Long stretch.
3 bakes with the Nullarbor. That could have been great. They said that they wanted more citrus to break up the ginger. They said the biscuit was good, but they needed to vary the flavours. Ginger on ginger. I know, there's a video in that. Ruby talked...
The whole category on Pornhub.
Ruby had a bit of a talk here in a minute. So Rahul wins.
Sorry, Mrs. Buchanan.
I know. Rahul wins.
Yep.
And it was interesting because for his whole story I was expecting to feel a little bit more emotional. Now, I knew going into the series who won. Kristie didn't.
No, I didn't.
Kept that hidden quite nicely. Robert, by the way, knew but forgot. So I was talking to him the other day and we were talking about it. He goes, I knew it, but I can't remember who won. So I've forgotten completely. It's a surprise to me, which was great. But I knew, but I was still expecting to feel, especially after his first 4 to 5 weeks, I was expecting, this is going to be so emotional when Rahul wins. And it kind of fell a bit flat. Like, there was, it got a bit, then there was a bit of emotion and it got good. But it wasn't the moment you were kind of expecting.
I was really looking for a bit of a Hollywood moment, and I'm not talking about handshakes.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is someone who faces challenges, might have had some self-doubt and kind of, really embraces that. And they don't have to have like a big extroverted thing, but just more of a... Like, I saw him laugh when he was with Cockney Joe and Cockney Jane, but not much else. And you pointed out beautifully, like, Ruby's speech about the whole... she knows why she loves baking, and it's because, she makes people happy when they eat it. And there's, as you said, it's just juxtaposition against her and Rahul, who just doesn't have the same joy in that baking.
And it's not a dig at him. I mean, we understand his circumstance, but it just, like, you... All the way through the show, you were like, Rahul's going to have this moment where he suddenly feels like he's not brilliant, but feels like he belongs there. What you actually got...
Well, that this is something that brings him authentic joy. It's not him proving himself.
It didn't seem to. It seemed like it... To me personally, and this could be just a personal thing, I looked at this show as Rahul set out to prove to his mother that he could do something. And
that's the thing. This is not a marathon. This is not something that you go, okay, I'm going to set myself a challenge and train for it and do it. As a viewer, I don't like that motivation. I really enjoy watching people who have a definite passion, who want to go on and do stuff, or share their joy with the world.
This is the thing for me.
Feed me bakes.
Exactly, that's more important. Feed us. Let's feed us. I think for me, the way that I view Rahul is... Rahul's only been baking for a very limited amount of time. Rahul is the sort of baker who, when you see him early on, you go, he's going to be absolutely brilliant for about the first 5 weeks and he'll stop about week 6. And if you look at the show, it's kind of what he did. He got to about week 5.
Yep.
And then he probably should have gone twice. Possibly a third time. It was really close a couple of times there. We said in the semi-final that Rahul got in the quarterfinal when Manon went home.
Yeah.
That we thought that Rahul got a bit of a Rahul bonus. You did a really good job early on.
Yeah.
And good for you, and we want to keep you around, and we know you've got a bit of a confidence issue, so we really want you to keep working at it. Rahul's one of those ones who I think week 5, week 6, outstanding, but he's probably due to go home around then to go learn more and to go grow as a baker and do more and discover more abilities. And instead, he kind of... Yeah, like it got to the end and I didn't feel... And again, it's not my journey to feel fulfilled on, but as a viewer, you want to feel like you go, okay, I feel like they feel like they've achieved something. I don't even think Rahul feels like he achieved something.
Yeah, and I know it's a lot of, do I need to manage my expectations? Is it okay for this to be how it is? I mean, it is okay.
It's okay. I also personally... He did a really good showstopper. Do I think it's necessarily negates the fact that Kim Joy won the first 2 challenges?
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing just left me... It didn't leave me upset. It didn't leave me angry. It left me more disappointed in production.
Yeah.
I think production dropped the ball on this completely. And I just think that the way they put the challenges together, the ones they chose for the final... tone they set in the way they made it feel ultra serious.
Yeah.
It left you wanting.
And it showed again in the Where Are They Now bit. Like usually we get that cute little like
they did bulk montages.
It's everything I saw on Instagram. People catching up.
But they did bulk montages of this group hang around and have dinner. This group go out for a bit of a drink. John likes rugby. This group goes...
So no one likes John, but they all wore shirts to celebrate John. So
but John had his family and his apparently grandchild on the way.
Oh, okay.
I did, by the way, my favourite part of the whole thing was Bryony and Terry.
Yes,
that was really cool.
That was so cool.
That was really cool.
I did like the bit at the end where the guys hoisted Rahul up on his shoulders, and there's
the Bollywood style ending.
The Bollywood style ending. That was kind of.
And
cool.
Anthony's sort of like, you're going up.
Anthony's like, come on, bro, we're gonna do this.
You're going up. And he's like, no, don't do it. And yeah, we were kind of left with the Rahul phone call to his mother, where he's trying to explain that no, she really is happy for me.
Yeah,
it was like, again, it just felt like we continued the story of Rahul's trying to justify.
And maybe that's just the family. That's just the culture from his family's culture. I'm not talking about like overall.
His family.
Yeah, his family. I'm not an expert on Indian culture by any means, and I talk about his families.
And I teach large elements of Indian culture, and that's not a continual trait.
I'm barely an expert on Australian culture.
Yeah, well, you definitely... I mean, it's accents, and that's about it, really.
I mean, I'm having this whole trouble with, like, racism bit, like, just wanting to oppress people and...
Yeah, but that's kind of a problem the whole country's had.
I'm kind of, against the whole putting refugees on an island and torturing them. What am I doing?
I don't know.
You know who isn't against that, though?
Who?
Fucking Jacinda Ardern.
So... Well, she is against it. Is against the torture.
She's against it. Yeah.
Yeah, she is against it. So
yeah,
that's the end of British Bake Off.
Sorry, Jacinda Ardern has like an evil side.
Yeah, dark Jacinda. So we've got
called Bianca because when I'm saying Jacinta actually means dark and Bianca means white. So
there you go.
Her alter ego, Bianca.
So that is the end of British Bake Off for this season. We'll talk about it a bit later on, not on this episode. I think we'll have a bit of a chat later on. We review it. Mm-hmm. We talked about the last series of British Bake Off, though, when we did say that we thought that it sort of tapered off towards the end. It feels like Channel 4's got a bit of a problem on their hands because it feels like the series keeps tapering off.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should do. It should invert. It should be building up. We should start, build up, and then just fall. We are, however, about to enter... Kiwi Bake Off.
Oh, I'm baked is, bro.
Yeah, the accents are going to be great. Now, hopefully...
That's fantastic.
If you've got friends...
who's bonkers? Not us, it's everyone else.
If you've got friends...
Heavenly creatures.
If you've got friends across the Dutch...
Kia ora.
We want you to let them know we exist. See, we've done this once before. We do have a couple of people in New Zealand who know we exist, but we told them once at a wedding. So, and hopefully they'll listen to us. And if they do, again, kia ora. But this will be interesting. It's an interesting series from what I've seen. It's a slightly different format. I don't believe there's a technical. I think there's only 2 bakes.
You know why, though? Because they open every fucking thing with a haka. Sorry. You know who I hope comes on and does like an appearance? The guy from the funeral show.
The Casketeers.
The Casketeers on Netflix. It's fucking brilliant.
So it's one of our favourite shows of the last. It's the Casketeers. It's incredible. Especially, I hope he's got his leaf blower. So, if you've got friends across the ditch, please let them know we exist. Please let them know we're doing this.
Tell them there will be no tasteless jokes at the expense of New Zealanders.
Tell them most of the tasteless jokes are at the expense of us. Because it's far more likely. So we're spinning into...
I'm not more likely to fuck a sheep.
And there goes our Kiwi audience. See you later, guys. Anyway, so let the people in New Zealand know, if you know them, we're here.
We're queer.
We've come to eat the deer, and we've also come to do a podcast on their series of Bake Off while we wait for the Great Australian Bake Off. Foxtel, hurry the fuck up.
Anytime now.
We love you guys. You know that.
Anytime now.
But seriously...
What is this shit?
Enough's enough. We need Australian Bake Off. Can we hurry this up?
Like,
yeah, Rupert, we know you listen. You're a big fan.
You
Rupert.
Successfully fucked the world. The least you can do is put some Bake Off from Australia on, yeah?
So we need some Australian Bake Off. But in the meantime, Kiwi Bake Off it is. You know why it's Kiwi Bake Off we're going to do?
Why?
Because it's not South African. Terrible show. Go look it up. Anyway, until next week, when we're now coming from the land of the long white cloud, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all next week.
Sorry, Mrs. Buchanan.